Groups advocating for the rights of asylum seekers in South Africa say that the time frames at which documents for applications are processed is one of the major causes of continuous intolerance against foreign nationals in the country. The Refugee Alliance for Justice and XAVERI S.A are blaming the Home Affairs Department service centres for the long lines, the poor quality and alleged corruption, which they say leads to an increase in the number of illegal foreign nationals. So to discuss this further with me this morning, we have Martin Mande, Director of XAVERI S.A, and Mike Mwale, Secretary of the Refugee Alliance for Justice. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
So, firstly, you released a statement recently whereby you were making some of these allegations against the Department of Home Affairs. You say the abuse of the refugee system by the Department of Home Affairs, as you characterize it, is leading to more and more foreign nationals being in the country illegally and also subjecting them to all sorts of subsequent ills. Let's start with you, Martin. Why do you say that?
Yes, that's right. I think from our statement we released, if you look the period, the time frame, actually, the window in processing the application of refugees is too long. And then it leaves a vacuum. Within that vacuum, anybody can capitalize it who didn't even come for the intention of having that asylum process. So the Refugee Act normally provides the process of, it need to be finalized within 3 months. But someone is staying with that document for 2 years. And we have now people who are up to 10 to 20 years within that asylum seeker document. So what is it there? So it means with asylum seeker document, I can go in South Africa, I will apply for asylum seeker, and I can stay in the country as long as I can with that document.
But what are some of the explanations that you've been given as to why this is happening? Why is the process taking that long?
Yeah, whenever we engage the Department of Home Affairs, they will always tell you that there is a backlog. And that backlog started since, I think the first backlog was in 2005, which never finalized. Now we're still carrying that 2005 backlog until today, which is 2019. The backlog haven't processed anyway. It never go any place. There is no any result found on that. But what we found beyond the backlog is, of course, there are people who are making it already business, because the genuine refugees are not being given a fair process on the expense of what migrants are capitalizing it to get the system through on that. And migrants have money because they come here, whatever the official will put on the table, they can afford to pay, and they will get that document. But your genuine refugees who don't have money, who don't have any intention, so they become victimized within the process.
Now, Mike, this is something that the South African government has also raised concern over, what Martin has just mentioned. But also, if you look at the UN report as of 2016, it states that South Africa at that time had the highest number of asylum seekers anywhere in the world. Do you believe that those are some mitigating factors for why the process is perhaps taking so long?
Yeah, when you talk of the United Nations or UNHCR, you're actually talking of the very same organization that is part of what is happening, the chaos that is taking place today. It has been, the UNHCR has been party to its worsening. The whole asylum system itself, if you look at it, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. You can't introduce a refugee system that does not look after refugees. You can't have a refugee system that does not spend a cent on refugees. All the budget for refugees is going to the officials as salaries. Refugees are left on the streets. They are suffering. So the officials are UNHCR officials and the Home Affairs officials. They are making money. The backlog was created by themselves because you are inviting everyone to come in and go to Marabastad and get an asylum paper. People who are not refugees. So by so doing, you are creating a backlog. It will take you time even to process applications for genuine refugees.
But is that actually what is happening?
Yes.
Because I cannot imagine that the government would say anybody can just come and apply for refugee status. Is this not a case of other migrants, as you say, abusing the system? Because government has highlighted that as one of the factors as well, that even those who do not qualify for asylum actually come here and pose as refugees.
Because the system invites them.
How does the system invite
Because all you need to do is just to jump the border and go to Marabastat. Those who fly into the country, like people from Pakistan, they just fly Bangladesh, they just fly, they put their passports aside, they go to Marabastat to apply.
But the law is clear. You can only seek asylum under certain circumstances, and there's a clear means test that you need to actually satisfy.
Yes.
So it isn't exactly true that the law and the government invites anyone to apply for asylum status.
But who's the custodian of that law? Who's the keeper of that law? Which is the government.
Yes,
in
the
this
government
extent is Home Affairs.
But if people abuse the system, and let's say out of 10 people, perhaps only one of them qualifies to apply for asylum rightfully, and only one person perhaps would satisfy that means test, yet 9 others would decide, you know what, we know that we are actually economic migrants or whatever else the case may be, but let's try and see if we can actually also get in as asylum seekers.
But I think we cannot blame people. We cannot blame the
can you not blame
applicants.
people?
Because first, is that official who's processing that document. Is the official who's issuing that document. It's not that migrant who's coming to get that document. It's an official who issue. So during the interview, there is a process. I will be interviewed. And through that interviews, they will assess my claim, if really I'm legitimate refugees or I'm not.
Well, would you agree with me that in as much as, and I concur with you, the officials are to blame if they are corrupt and allowing corrupt practices to unfold? However, you cannot absolve the people who come and apply or try to circumvent and beat the system. You can't absolve them from responsibility here.
Okay, these people are people who they know they're not refugees. A person is not a refugee, enters a country for purposes of looking for money. So these people, they see a loophole, they take advantage of the loophole, and this system itself, if you get an asylum paper, you can stay as long as 20 years on asylum paper. All you need to do is to be going there regularly to extend. Now they are charging money.
You see,
for you to extend, you have to pay.
And again, I
Yes.
concur with you. However,
Yes.
what I
Yes.
take issue with what both of you are saying with
Yeah.
is that you cannot, because it sounds right now as if you are absolutely condoning the fact that people have found loopholes in the system and are exploiting that. If you condone that, then you should also then condone the fact that you will wait for longer than you are supposed to, because you're not speaking out against the wrong perpetrated by those who are trying to defeat the system.
But yes, Sakina, you know, that loopholes is created, you know, blame will always go to the government.
We get that. But why
Because-
are you not speaking out against that?
No,
why are you not condemning that practice?
It's not our job as Martin
is
to
your
speak
job.
on migrant issues. I can only speak on refugees issues because the government has a clear legislation. We have a clear act on that. We have a Refugee Act, which is separate from Migrants Act. In the Refugee Act, refugees, it's clear definition. Someone who flee the country for a purpose of what? War or violation or persecution, which is he come.
But you know what that sounds like? It's okay for crime to be perpetrated against other people as long as it's not being done to me. And that cannot be right. A crime is a crime, regardless of where it is done, who it is perpetrated against. And therefore, all I'm asking you is, when you know that there is wrongdoing, when you see that there is wrongdoing, because your complaints, your concerns are legitimate ones. However, you cannot just look at government and want to blame government solely. Yes, they are wrong. There are places where the officials are letting the system down, and they should be dealt with. But equally, you also need to deal with those who are responsible for setting that whole process in motion from the side of those applying for asylum.
The only way to deal with a situation where people take advantage of loopholes, it is to close the loopholes. Those people who have the capacity to close those loopholes and they don't close them are the people to be blamed. If we had that capacity, obviously we would have closed those loopholes. But people who should be closing those loopholes are the very people who are gaining from them. You won't believe it if I tell you that. In Marabastad.
Okay. So how would you rate the service from the Department of Home Affairs at
No,
this
it's
stage?
terrible. There is no
On a
service
scale
at
of
all.
1 to 10, 0 being
No, probably-
terrible, 10
Probably
being
we
great.
can give refugee system is 0. And this is why we are calling for the scrap of the system.
It has to be scrapped. They have to come
I'm
up.
glad you raised it, and hopefully
Yes.
we can come back to this matter. Thanks to Martin Mande, Director of XAVERI S.A, and Mike Mwale, Secretary of the Refugee Alliance for Justice, for talking to us about the changes that they would like to see in the processing of asylum seeker documents to avoid an increase in the number of illegal foreign nationals in the country.